Alright, I'm going to sew together the Kids Rad coverall, 124. To start this one, I'm going to start with the pockets first. So you'll have two fronts here that are opposite. And you'll have your pocket linings. So you take your lining and just match it up to this pocket opening. Right sides of fabric will be together. And all you're going to do is just straight stitch at 1/4 inch around that opening on both sides. Just like that. Okay, and then next, after that's top stitched, or just stitched, then you'll clip into the corners here, not through the seam, just up to it. And then turn this pocket lining to the opposite side. Just like that. You'll see it on the back side. And then you'll top stitch here to keep that flat. So what I like to do is just top stitch really close to the edge here, and then go in about 1/4 inch and then down, and then really close to the bottom again. And that's mostly just a design preference more than anything. Okay, there it is top stitched now. And you'll just do the exact same thing to the other side. Turn it inside. And then stitch it. Okay, now that one's top stitched too. So the next step is going to be to grab our pocket backs and turn the fronts over. And lay the back down so the right side is against the right side of this pocket lining. And then you'll just serge it all the way around these 3 edges. Okay, so there the pocket will be serged together, and you'll see from the front that it'll show through on the opening. So same thing for the other side. Just lay it there. You can pin it if you find that easier. Okay, now that pocket is closed too. So I like to top stitch them as well. So from the top you can kind of feel where that serger seam is, and you'll just follow it with a straight stitch. Okay, there it's top stitched. And that step's definitely not necessary, but I think it just gives it a little bit of a more utilitarian look to the coverall. Okay, there our pockets are done. Alright, so next we're going to move on to the center front, which is going to be the zipper. So to start this, you'll match your center front together, and there's this 1/4 inch seam allowance at the bottom half, or it's not quite half, but anyway, the bottom portion. You can either straight stitch or serge that closed right at the 1/4 inch. I like to straight stitch it because it's a little bit less bulky when I'm finishing my zipper down there. So you can straight stitch it at a 1/4 inch or serge it, whatever you prefer. And I would lock it pretty well at this beginning area. So there it's closed. So when you open the front, it should be, these should be meeting, basically touching each other. And that's where we'll insert our zipper. But before that, I'm going to do the zipper placket. So here you'll put these right sides together and just straight stitch around the curve at the top to the bottom at a 1/4 inch. And then you can trim a little bit of this seam allowance at the top, right around the curve. So then when you turn it right side out, there's less bulk there. So turn it right side out and top stitch right along the edge of the closed seam. Okay, there, so it should look nice and flat after top stitching. Okay, on to the zipper portion. So at that center front, right at the beginning of the seam, you're going to need to clip a little triangle, which is going to be 3/8 of an inch away from each side, and then a 1/2 inch deep. And you'll want to mark it, be pretty precise about it. So take a ruler and right at the top, go 3/8 inch wide, 1, 2, 3, and 1/2 inch deep. So just mark that, and then basically you're just going to clip a line to that marking from this point. Oh, that other one was too wide. 1, 2, 3. I didn't measure this one correctly. Here we go. Okay, so you're going to clip that little V. And now we will, see, obviously my zipper's way too long, but you can trim that when you're done. So don't worry about it right now. So for the first side, I like to unzip it, and just to get this, just this thing out of the way, whatever that's called. And she'll take your first side, which is your zipper's gonna be upside down, and place this edge of the tape against this center line. Where's that placket? Oh, there it is. So that'll be lined up with the line. You'll want to leave at least 3/4 of an inch of the tape at the top, 1/2 inch minimum. I'll leave it all there. And then, so you're gonna have your fabric, your zipper, and then your placket is gonna be on top. And these are all the raw edges that are gonna be meeting together. So you'll pin those in place. This zipper guard needs to be 1/4 of an inch below the neckline because you're going to be sewing your neckband there, so you need to leave 1/4 inch right here. Maybe just a touch more than that, but it should be above the top of the zipper to protect. So at the bottom, you should place a pin right where you need your seam to be ending. So you can be precise. So you're gonna pin it right where this clipped corner is done. That's right where that pin is. And this is gonna be longer, and that's by design. So we have our first side ready to sew. Here, you'll see they're all sandwiched together. So just put your zipper foot on and sew down that first side. If you can get away with just sewing over your pins, not even having to take them out, that's the easiest to keep things in place. And I forgot to mention I'm sewing it on at 3/8 of an inch. And just sew right to that marked pin, so you know you're at the corner. So if it looks good, then you can take out all your pins. And from the front, you're gonna see the zipper looks like that with the guard just behind it. So to do your second side, you're gonna have to zip this up. And turn that zipper towards the inside of the garment. So now it's laying on the wrong side. And you're just gonna match this other center with the other zipper tape side. And you make sure everything lines up. And then just pin the tape and the fabric together again. This time I'm going to sew on the side of the fabric so I can see right where that triangle is ending. But you can sew from either side, whichever you prefer. Begin. I'm going to unzip this just to get this, what is that thing called? I'm going to unzip this just to get this zipper pull out of the way. Zipper pull. Okay. And I'll start down. At 3/8 of an inch again. Once I'm down to that pull, I'm gonna just grab my seam out of the way and then zip it up so it's out of the way again. And start over. And you're gonna make sure this guard is folded out of the seam. Make sure that doesn't get caught. So then start back where you pulled it out. So you'll end right at that point again. And pull out your pins. So now from the front, you should be able to see your zipper is basically placed. All you have to do left now is finish the bottom portion. And to do that, we are just going to be top stitching. So make sure that bottom portion is kind of folded down. And to top stitch, we'll start on the side without the zipper guard. But you need to make sure you're not catching the zipper guard in the seam. Again, you'll have to kind of get that zipper pull out of the way. Okay, now that you're at the bottom, if your zipper is too long, you're just going to be sewing over the teeth back and forth to secure it. So if they're metal, you'll want to hand turn it just to make sure your needle doesn't break. But now that you're at the bottom, you're going to flip that guard back in, so you're also stitching over that at the bottom. And here you'll need to secure it really well. So you'll go back and forth a few times at least, hand turning it since you're going over the zipper teeth. Okay, and then back up the other side. Okay, now your zipper is top stitched. And to finish it, you'll just need to come in here underneath that guard, trim your zipper. A little bit shorter than the guard so it can't be felt from the inside. And then you can either leave that as is or glue it or whatever. I'll just leave it as is. All right, so moving on to the rest of it. The next step is going to be serging our backs together. So they'll just be put right sides together, and you'll serge down the center back. And after that, we're going to put our shoulders together. So shoulders, right sides of fabric together, serge closed. All right, and then we'll open this up so we see our armholes. And you grab your sleeve. So you'll place your sleeve cap right alongside the armhole, and the center notch will get pinned to the shoulder seam. And then you'll serge the sleeve cap to the armhole, starting at one of the sides and continuing all the way to the other side. Okay, that sleeve cap is serged on now, so when you pull it out, it'll look like that. So do the same thing to the other sleeve. Okay, now that both sleeves are on, you are going to just fold it in half so that the side seams are lined up, and serge from the sleeve all the way to the ankle, catching this pocket, which if your fabric is bulky can be a little bit tricky, so just be careful when you're coming off of the pocket onto the inner area so that it doesn't get all wavy or get pulled off, of course. So after I do the sides, then you'll just do the inseams the same way. Just serge them together. Okay, now the side seams and the inseams are closed, and I'm going to do the sleeve cuffs and ankle cuffs next. For our sleeve cuffs, well, they're done the exact same way, but we'll start with the sleeves. We'll just fold it in half, parallel to the grain line, and it'll be right sides together if there's a right and a wrong side. This one doesn't have one. So just fold it in half and serge down that edge. And then you'll fold the cuff in half again. So your seam will basically be folded onto itself to make the cuff. So just place that inside your raw sleeve hem. And you'll want this seam to be either towards the back or lined up with this side seam. So just place that inside. All the raw edges will be lined up, and that will be not even stretched that much to fit, but you'll need to stretch it a tiny bit to fit it, and then serge it in a circle all the way around. And then I like to knot these seams so you don't get threads coming out later. So there's your first one. And I'm just going to do the same thing for the other sleeve and the exact same thing for the ankles. And the same for the ankles as the sleeves. You'll want to make sure the seam is towards the back or lined up with one of the inseam or outseam. And this one you'll need to stretch a little bit more, so stretch that to fit. And then serge it on. After that's done, open it up. And all that's left to do now is the neckband. So grab your neckband and fold it in half like this. And you'll start with pinning that center notch to the center back. And then this will just get pinned where it slopes down, that tip will get pinned to the center front, and you'll want to make sure that the neckband is at least as long as the center front, maybe goes over just a little bit. So when you serge over that, then you fold up, there'll still be, that neckband will still go further than the zipper tape. So pin that there with just a tiny bit excess, and then pin at a couple more places. Stretch the neckband to fit the neck first, and then pin at a couple more places along. And then do the same thing for the opposite end. Meet that tip at the other center front with a little bit of excess, and then pin it. And then stretch it to fit the neck and pin at least one other place. I'll usually do it at the shoulder seam. Okay, so now all you're going to do is serge it on from center front to center front, and just make sure that those edges don't come in front of the zipper tape when you go. Okay, so you'll see here, that's why we left that 1/4 inch at the top, so we had room to serge. So now all we're going to do is fold this seam down, tuck that tail underneath like that, and we're going to top stitch around the neck. I'll actually start at this end, so you're going to tuck that tail, fold the seam down, and then start top stitching. Okay, after you're done, it should look nice and neat and finished at the top. So you can put your zipper up and it'll stop below the guard, and then the neckband will go all the way to the edges of that zipper tape. Now all you have left to do is iron it really well and you'll be done.